Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Broken by Concept, episode 160. I'm back from China. So we took a week off.
Yep.
Spent 2 weeks in China. Come back yesterday.
Got some new shirts.
Some new shirts here.
I mean, our merchandise is long. It's going to take years, guys.
Not years,
Right.
but
These are test products.
we got some test products from China to see what the material is like. So we're doing a bit of investigation to see what's out there. This one was a little bit tight as well, but seems okay. But still, I think we'll feel out some other products before we.
Yeah, but if you're going to ask, we've got nothing even in the horizon.
Nah. Get angry. Don't get angry. Just don't get angry.
We're managing expectations.
Just don't get angry at either of us.
We're managing expectations, Curtis.
Yeah,
okay?
this is Be Real. So yeah, look, I want to kind of talk about a few things from my trip.
So did you play some solo queue, Curtis? What's going on? So
I played a little bit of solo queue.
I made the announcement because I wanted to make sure it wasn't a boot camp for you. It was
No.
like a vacation
family
thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't even really say it was a vacation. I guess it was a vacation, kind of a vacation. More seeing my partner's family over in China, but
you're not there to play solo queue. You're not boot camping.
no. And so essentially, for me, this trip was, we're in the West, right? And it was very eye-opening to see what true Chinese culture was about. I kind of want to talk about the things that I feel like are relevant to League. What I will say is that, in Australia anyway, from an education perspective, they're very good at we're not confronted with rankings that much. Like in class, you're not really ranked in terms of you're the best student, worst student, ranked 3 student, 4 student. In China, it starts very, very young. You're ranked, you're rated, and this isn't just in education. It's in many, many areas of life in China. People are very comfortable with comparison. It's deeply just embedded into the culture. The idea that someone is better than you at this, or has more than you, or less than you, and you are here and they're there. This whole idea of comparing and comparison and ranking and rating, it's so deeply embedded that there's no flinching. It's okay, or they accept it, that you are going to be compared. You are worse than someone or better than someone, and it's just publicly displayed. And so
you're talking about that the schools are like literally like the number is in their title.
Yeah, like this is school number this is school number that. It's very public. And
like you can obviously Google and search that up for our schools, but it's not as pushed or out there.
That's right. And so I think that I think this definitely has an effect on like the way people in China view comparing themselves with others. There is no, oh my God, that person might think they're better than me, or that person might be, I don't want to compare myself with that person. No, that doesn't exist. It is just like, everyone is comfortable with that idea. And I believe that, from my limited time play, I played a good few hours. There's 11 games straight. So I just had a limited amount of time. I had to just play as much as I could in this little time. I had an account that finished Diamond the last split one, because it was early on in the season. So it was Diamond MMR, playing with other people with Diamond MMR. And, one of my observations, and just really thinking about it from a cultural perspective, is that, there's no, I can feel, and just my vibe and talking to people and just the whole experience, there is no fear of comparison. That's not going to impact the way you navigate or you perform. And I feel like in Chinese solo queue, an element of it, and the way they conduct themselves on the Rift is that, they don't have that problem of overthinking and thinking too much about what other people are thinking of them. That is just kind of what it is. So that's observation number 1. And I will say, I'm not going to say I'm an expert here, but what I will say is that I think that China is an incredibly complicated country. And I think that the solo queue we don't truly understand why it is like it is. Like I'm going to try and talk about some, my observations, why the Chinese solo queue is played the way it is, and why the players play the way they do, and why the servers, everything is like it is. But again, there's probably a lot more at play here. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, make it clear, is that there is this comfortability with comparison and rating. Okay. The second thing is that, they have an incredibly hardcore work ethic. and work culture, right? So to give context, my nephew in China, he's like 6 years old. They go to school from 7:30 in the morning to 7:30 at night. That's at 6 years old, right? You work hard, you work long hours, you grind from the youngest possible age.
And that is because you need to be able to climb that ranking, right?
You need to be able to differentiate yourself from the other millions and millions and millions of people.
They have so many.
It's very competitive, right? And it's the same thing as why in China, the food can't be bad. You can't, the service can't be bad. Everything has to be good because you will get weeded out by someone else who does it better and cheaper and more effective than you, because there is so many, it's such a competitive country in that sense, which has a lot of positives, because you can get things on demand, you can get good quality things on demand, and things are cheaper and more efficient and better. But obviously it comes there's some other costs at play there as well.
You had that internet story?
Yeah. So when I went to a place and we had an internet problem at 11 p.m., on a Sunday night or something. And we called up the internet service provider. They had someone come at 7 a.m. the next morning.
Just straight up rocking up
boom.
There. No questions
Fix it,
asked.
boom, no question. Done. And I'm like, in Australia, that would have taken 2 weeks to get someone to come here. It's just so hard to get people to come fix your internet.
Yeah.
It's just not feasible. And then they're definitely not going to send a person. You're going to be on a call for like 3 hours talking to a call center, and then it'll just be a nightmare.
Yep.
Right. So there's that. So I think that, the work ethic and the work culture. So I think that they are very comfortable sitting there and playing a bulk amount of games for a very long period of time and grinding games, because that's what they do in everything. In work, they work long hours. They do the 9-9-6, right? The 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. They do the incredible school hours. They do after school programs. Their work ethic and the way they focus is just incredibly high, much higher, especially from Australia, where I would say we're very lazy comparatively to that. So I think that there's something to be said there about that work ethic and work culture, which, especially with a game like League, that requires so much intuition and pattern recognition. I think they get a lot of benefit from that. Okay. I will say though, in my experiences, and again, these are just my experiences, it felt like there was a very low level of thought and creative expression, and there was almost thinking. So in Lane, for example, let's just speak specific.
We love specifics.
So I played, again, this is the Diamond MMR. The meme is, Korea and China Diamond is Osh Challenger. And I'm going to tell you right here, it was the worst laning I've basically ever, without exaggeration, I genuinely think some of the time in Diamond, in OS, you would get better laners. You wouldn't get better skirmishers ever, or better team fighting, but you would get better laners. There is incredibly unsophisticated wave management, resets, overstaying to the max. I'm not even exaggerating. Terrible wave management, basically zero. From a creative, macro, strategic perspective, little to no, none of that. But the skirmishing and the team fighting was incredibly sophisticated, and they made intuitively good decisions in fights. But I think, again, that goes to show as a testament to what their strengths are and the way they conduct their practice. So I think that, and I can't speak for the high elos. I didn't have the opportunity to play in the high elo brackets. So I can't comment on that, but at least in Diamond, that's what it was like. So there's no comparison to high elo OS and Diamond in China. It's not even on the same...
Or NA or EU, obviously.
No, exactly. And you can say the same for NA or EU. It's not even in the same ballpark. So that narrative can be very, very quickly dispelled. And I do think that there is something to be said as well with, gaming in China. It's very deeply embedded in the sense that everyone is playing mobile games. Like, I think it's very accepted. Like, everyone is on mobile games all the time, everywhere. But it's also not accepted at the same time, since because you need to be working and progressing and climbing, and it is, again, tying back to that culture of comparison. So I think that when they do have time to play, they play hard. So I will say there's something there as well. So overall, I think that I would love to get the opportunity to play, Master Plus in China. I didn't, because the split reset, so I actually couldn't get an account that was Master, because they didn't really have them. So that's kind of on the books. So we'll probably go to Korea before I go back to China anyway. So yeah, that's kind of my limited experiences. But if I had some questions holistically about the trip, I think the food was amazing. Like the architecture is very beautiful, and a lot of the culture and tradition is beautiful. But at the same time, I think there's, the smoking culture and the drinking culture and all that was pretty intense and not for me.
A bit of a shock.
A very big shock. Yeah.
Do we want to talk a little bit about? You talk a lot about the comparison and stuff like that. Obviously, our podcast is very much about focus on yourself, process, the results come, right? Is there talk of like process at all there? Like what's process?
Okay, well, yeah, it's a good question actually, because they are incredibly sophisticated with process in terms of study.
Yeah.
Like they have got that down. Like they know how to really learn things at school.
To a T, yeah.
Like they know how to really effectively and efficiently study things. Again, because gaming isn't really viewed in that way or taken kind of seriously, it just hasn't been applied. I don't think it really has been applied yet. Yeah. And I think that this is the thing. This is the challenge they face, and I'm assuming it's very similar in Korea because of the way, again, the way their society is structured. But again, speaking just for China, is that you've always got that looming fear of that there is someone else out there doing it more than me, because there's just so many people. And I think that, like, you can have any process you want, but I feel like that pressure and if you're someone in China that is in the position to take gaming seriously or even trying to take gaming seriously, I don't think you're ever going to be in a scenario where you're not going to play absolute metric ton of games because everyone else is.
The thought will never be, I'll play less, higher intensity.
Balance, I'm going to just say this straight up. There is no such thing as balance in China. Balance in work-life balance in anything, in everything is thrown out the window. China is a country of extremes. For example, food-wise, right? You never order the right amount. You always order an extreme amount of food. They always, because it's a showing of ego and like, oh, I provided you this amazing meal and look at how much food there is. I want you to feel like there was more than enough food.
You can never complain that there wasn't enough food. Yeah.
And like, and there's, in terms of the studies, it's extreme in terms of poverty, elite, and it's extreme. It is an extreme country. And I think that, there would never be, I don't think there ever can be, because of their culture, a measured, approach to improvement in league. It's always going to be the absolute extreme. And I think that the way they cover for the weaknesses in that approach is that you've just got too many people.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be outliers. You've always got the benefit of doing an unscalable or in a quote unquote inefficient approach, because this will be compensated by the scale of the population. If we went about this, if we did this approach in a country like Australia, it wouldn't work because we don't have the population. We wouldn't have the amount of outliers required to overcompensate for the inefficiency of the way the practice is done. So I will say that that's just kind of the way it is. That's just the way their culture is structured. And I think everything, the way things are done in China is to be able to provide for that many people, So, yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting hearing the stories and stuff. And yeah, it sucks that you didn't get to play that much, but you also were talking about as well that when you played against these players, you felt like you couldn't read them. Their emotions.
So for those of you who've watched the documentary AlphaGo was essentially a documentary about the game Go, right? It's kind of like that strategic game where you kind of take territory. It's kind of like a board game. And this world champion, who was like the Korean guy, right? Basically the documentary followed his journey against a piece of AI software. And, if you haven't watched it, probably you want to pause this if you do want to watch it. So there's going to be spoilers here. But essentially, there's this scene where he versus the AI, I think, for one of the first times, and he never versed it before. And then he's like, it just has no, I can't feel the opponent. I can't feel the AI. It has no, he was trying to describe how it felt to verse this opponent, because when you get very, very good at any craft, you can feel your opposition. You can read your opposition. Like for me, when I play right now in my server right now, I can feel and read the emotion of my opponent. I can feel frustration. I can feel anger. I can feel when they're really stressed. I can feel when they're anxious. I can feel when they're really eager. I can feel when they're overreaching. I can feel and understand them at a very human level. It's very clear to me through their actions and the decisions and the way they make, the way they do things. When I was in China for my 11-ish games, it was very, very difficult for me to feel anything. I felt incredibly disconnected from my opponents. It wasn't now, and again, I want to be careful because it could just be I'm not familiar with the way they play League. And maybe with time, as I put more time on that server, you know, maybe I would be able to feel them and understand them. But I will say in those games, there was no feeling. It felt like I was versing some sort of robot that was making decisions.
That's what I think he used the word to describe it in the AlphaGo documentary, The Korean World Champion. He said it was cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Like calculated.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they were calculated,
Not
but it was
calculated,
very cold.
but cold, yeah.
Yeah, cold. It was like they were making decisions without, it was like, I wouldn't say they didn't make sense, but it was very just like just decisions that I wouldn't make, and I'm just so disconnected from it.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? Kind of.
You just can't.
I don't understand what mindset you would have to be in to make that decision.
Interesting.
Right? And again, that could be the way. And I still, to this day, don't understand why they want to level 1 flip a game. Like, I don't get that. I really don't get that. And I'm sure there's an explanation of why. No matter what your comp is. I don't know why.
Really? Because I'm sure people are saying, well, Curtis and Nathan, people level 1 coin flip in our games, but this is to a new extreme.
Yeah, every game.
Every game. Yeah. So what are we talking about? Do they invade?
You just run at the dot bush and then scrap.
Wait to the
I was just bot? Back as much as I can.
To the bot dot bush or the top
one? No, like the river around mid.
To the bot one or the top one?
The bot one.
So everyone goes to the bot one. Both
I think it was on if I remember correctly, it was at least I think around 90% of the games.
Really?
It's I think it was 9 out of 11.
No matter what.
Yeah.
They could
no matter what your comp was.
A Yumi, Ezreal and shit.
Doesn't matter. They're fighting.
Wow.
I didn't want to fight on one of them.
So you'll spam ping
I was trying to, they'll get going. So I gotta go.
Really?
Yeah, you gotta go.
Wow.
But I will say again, there were 2 observations I made about if I were to go back to China and play seriously. There are 2 ways to be successful in that region, right? With the way those games play out, you've got 2 options from a mid laner's perspective. Number 1, you can take the approach of being very just screw everyone else, get strong, and take over the game later. And that is an incredibly reliable. I remember I played a game where I played Syndra. I just sat there in lane. I didn't adapt to the chaos. I said, fuck off everyone. And then went up 70 CS and just dominated a mid game. Right? You can do that. Right? And I feel like you could play a scaling champ. You could sit there and play a Kassadin. You could play a Vlad. You could play a Yi. And you could farm your ass off reliably, say no, and farm and scale and carry and win. That is in my opinion, if I were to go back, that would be something that I would actively try to do. Alternatively, you can say, you know what? Okay, all this chaos is happening. I'm just going to play something that plays fast and that can just capitalize on that chaos and be at those fights and win those fights and take over a game. You can play it like a Fizz or a Pantheon. That's why we said there was so much Pyke. Pyke was in 90% of the games. Play a Pyke, play a Zoe, play a Rumble. You can do that. And that would work incredibly well as well. So both work. That is also why on the Chinese Super server, one of the highest, there's a super, super high ranked Kassadin player and a super high ranked Fizz player. You can play both. You can play both styles. So I think that is the mindset that I would have going in. Which one do you want to do from a mid laner's perspective? So yeah.
Very interesting. All right, so I think that's. I don't think I have any other questions around your China tour.
Yeah, and again, I think that I didn't have the opportunity to play more than that, so I can't speak for.
I guess it was just quick observations, right? Just some things.
Yeah, they're just my quick observations. That's right.
All right, so speaking of other servers, if you might have seen on Twitch TV recently, if you go to the League of Legends category, like all like the big streamers there, everyone's gone to Korea. There's sort of the campaign's called The World Invades Korea. It says here on this website here, trackdiff.com, streamers, influencers, and pros from around the world are competing on the Korean servers. They sort of like do like a sort of a race to, rank 1 or wherever it is. So it's been really interesting to see all the different players and people from different regions and stuff like that. Obviously, we're from OS. We've got Midbeast, obviously, representing the Oceanic server. I don't know if you would call it representing, but he's over there. And what I want us to do here, guys, today, we always talk about champions, champion pools. Everyone's thinking like, I've got to have a diverse champion pool. Let's look at what we would call, these are professional solo queue players. Would you agree? These people get paid, most of them, to play.
That's a good way of putting it.
They're professional players. Like this is, if you have the time to go to Korea in the middle of the year, to spend multiple weeks there.
A lot of money.
You're probably pretty serious about the game. Would you agree?
Yep.
Like these people aren't going there to, play
casually.
Play casually, right? So let's look at the way these players, what they're doing with their champions. How are they climbing? What's their strategy to climb? Because again, these people want to climb. They want to prove to the world that they're really good. So what I did here is there's, again, this website here, trackdiff.com. And it has all of the streamers and pros there. I think there's about 41 on this list. And what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to go through like the first 15 or so, their OPGGs, and let's just sort of observe things and take observations. All right, so the rank 1 player here currently, on the track diff, so the number 1, the highest ranked Western player in Korea at the moment, is Agurin. He's currently rank 3 on the ladder at 1,000 LP. And I will talk about Agurin a little bit later after this episode. But first, we're just looking at this champ here. So let's look at what he's done here with his journey. He's got Jarvan and Elise. You'd say these probably play and Nocturne. Would you call this a champ pool of 3?
Yeah, 3. That looks like a 3 champ pool to me. He's definitively, loving his Jarvan Elise. But then he's also got a decent amount of Nocturne, which is kind of, to me, looks like a core 2 with like a complementary 3rd.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
All right, so our second highest ranked person here, so this is Sears.
I don't even know who that is.
I don't know who that is. He's a support player. He's rank 11 on that server currently, so he plays Raul, looks like Raul, Pike, Norris. I'd say this is a pretty diverse pool, right?
Very diverse pool. He's definitively got at least...
It's about 6 champions.
6 champs in his pool, like definitively. Which is actually backs up what Cupcake said. We spoke a while ago with Cupcake and he said that as support...
He thinks that has to be the role with the most diverse champion pool.
Yeah. And it does kind of make sense in a way, right? Because... Your mental stack is probably a little bit less occupied, so you probably can afford to play more. And he just thinks it's the role that is best with counterpick. There's most influence with counterpick. So very interesting.
We've got our third person here. This is, I think, Griffin from North America. He is currently sitting at rank 13. So it looks like here, Kindred, Graves. I mean, mostly I would say it looks like he's gained all his ELO really with Kindred, 65% win
Yes, so
rate.
he's got 71 games with Kindred, and then the next top highest played is Graves. So it's like under, half. So the majority of his games play with Kindred.
So would you say this is more so just one champion or?
Well, this one's interesting though, because 33 games here of Graves with a 58% win rate. I would say Graves is definitively in his pool.
Yeah.
But then it kind of looks like all the other champs haven't really given him much. I mean, I guess Ivan with the 27 games played, but I would say that he definitely has a 5 champ pool.
Yep.
Right?
Okay.
I would say he's comfortably got a 5 champ pool, but he's out. He looks like his Kindred is significantly better than basically everything else. That's where most of his LPs comes from. Yeah.
Let's look at our fourth person here. So this is rank 20. This is Alois. Just Riven, straight up. Riven one trick, only play Riven, 180 games. Yeah, 60% win rate. Then next up, we've got World's Champion, who is Fools. He's an Azir one trick. So we've got another one trick here. Straight up 250 games this year, like literally, obviously, only that. Next one, we got Wixie. I think he's like an NA second tier player.
Is he 80 carry?
80 carry, yeah. And we've got Ezreal. I'll say this is probably a 2 champ pool. 2
champions.
champions.
Yeah, it looks...
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because...
He has a high win rate with Zyra as well.
Well, it looks to me he's got a core 2, and then he has like a bunch of others that are kind of like very niche picks, kind of. Like, it's like, oh, if this is a Cogmore game, I'll play Cog. If this is a Zyra game, I'll play Zyra, you know? So, to me, it looks like mainly 2. That's where most of his LP is coming from, but then he has like those very niche. That is actually what I would have expected, and that's what I do recommend to most. Is like you have a core 2 or 3, and then you should be able to like whip out a 4th, 5th. You know, if you really want to take solo queue seriously, it's like core 2 or 3, and then 4th niche pick, maybe a 5th if it's a super easy champ.
Next up, we've got TF Blade. He's currently ranked 78, 500 LP challenger, and that's probably just Jack's one trick, yeah?
He's got 40 games
with the Garen.
40 games with Garen.
Maybe like 2?
And 34 games. I would say it's more of like it's definitely overwhelmingly a Jack's main, but I would say that I think that's like a pool of 1, but with 2 complementary picks.
Complementary, like that's the way you'll describe it. Yeah.
Again, it's hard to say because like what actually is having a champ in your pool?
Yeah.
Like, what does that actually mean? Because you got to remember when you have a champ pool of say 3 champs, right? It never means that you can play 3, all of them to the exact same degree. Like there's always going to be some difference in the pool. Like you could have one that's at like 98% competence and then one at 90% and then one at 75%, you know?
But that 75%
still means you're in your pool.
It's like a better pick in that game. So that's going to sort of like increase it to like let's say if that one, that your main champion, you know,
you
you
kind of compensate for that lack of mastery with picking it in better positions. That's right. Like I think that, you know, what we're seeing here is that a lot of these players seem to have like 1 or 2 champs that they're really comfortable on, and then
they have sort of like some side champions.
Yeah, some side champions. So it's like,
again,
are they really in their pool?
It's sort of like, we got to like, when people wonder what people think when they think about either my champion pool's like 3 champions.
Yeah.
Does that mean they think every champion's the even amount played?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what they mean. I think
because we've never really talked about that. We've never really talked about what does the distribution look like.
Well, let's have this conversation. I think it's actually really important because champ pool's such an important topic. Look, I'll start by saying that I think in order to have, and I'm going to speak again from my experiences, I think if you are let's say, just take Master Plus. We'll just take Master Plus. If you want to have, if someone comes into my program and says, I want to get Challenger, you know, how many champs should I play? I actually have right now. He was a Grandmaster, Casio one trick, came into my program, and he wants to get Challenger, and he wants to actually kind of go pro / get a collegiate scholarship. And I said, well, you shouldn't be a one trick, right? We got to expand your pool. The reality is that you need to have, I would say, extreme competence on at least 2 champions. Like I'm talking like 90. If we're going to give it a rating out of 0 to 100, you need to have like top 98, 97, like really high 90s, right? I think your 3rd champ still needs to be pretty high. I think you still need to be like 90, 89, 88, like up there. And then I think then like a 4th, and you know, I'll say a 4th champ can be like significantly lower, like a niche counter pick. And then depending on the person, you know, like a 5th maybe. Now, I don't think 5th's necessary. I think 4's great. I don't think 5th's really. I think 5th can even be a bit overkill. But if you did have a 5th, again, it would have to be an easy counter pick champ that you would only have maybe like, you know, 75% competence or whatever it might be. So my main point being there, I think you need to have like a small amount of ones that you absolutely are amazing at, and a small amount that like you're using as a counter pick, you know? So like I said, 4 champs, 98, 99 type thing, and then 1 champ at like that 85, and then 1 champ at like the 75.
So do you think that at the extreme competence, 2 champs?
I think it's, if we're talking like climbing to like high challenger, Like you're not going to
But that's
get.
not what we've seen. We've seen all these opportunities showing us what's one champion, and then
It's
the others-
basically one.
It's like two others like that are like way less.
It's like 99 or
Uh,
98.
let's use it. I think TF Blades is a great
Yeah,
example.
it is a great
right?
example, yeah.
So like one champion, Jack's 150 games,
Yeah.
and then he's got Garen 40
40
games,
games.
and then Aurelia about 40 games as well.
Well, what was Agurin's? Go back to Agurin because I think he's obviously the
Okay,
person with
so-
the most success, right?
Yeah.
Well, his is like I think his backs up mine.
He does
doesn't
back
it?
up yours,
So he's
yeah.
got Jarvan at 113 games, and he's got Elise at 88 games. He looks
So there's
obviously
two
Jarvan's his
extreme
best,
competence.
but he's stream competence on both of these, and then he's got a third that's still pretty good. Like I would say that's like maybe an 80%, right? 85%, and then he's got like a Kha'Zix here probably at 70%. That's exact. That if I were to go to Korea, that's what mine would probably look like.
So two extreme competence.
Like two extreme competence, and then a third that's still really good, and then like a fourth that's like just counterpicked, and I'm not amazing at. That's at least that's the way I would like to think I would go about it, because I feel like that gives you, again, I feel like for me the most flexibility across a lot of amount of games.
A large amount of games. So it's interesting, right? So it's like, people's like, okay, well, let's say our audience, they're not professional solo queue players. I think you should just go and demonstrate it. You got to have extreme competence. You got to really build that first. You can't go thinking that it's going to be 3 champions and they're going to be equal. It just doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Right? Yeah. And as we're seeing this here, these are the best players in the world who've invested a lot of time and money. This is how they're climbing. Really interesting to observe this.
It is interesting, yeah.
I want to just go quickly flick through some of the others here. But we've also got a very big mix as well of just straight up one tricks.
Oh, it's Dante.
There's Dante's 300 games with the Hecarim, and then second is...
Well, that's basically one trick, I would say.
Diana, 27 games with really poor rate after that.
Yeah, so that's basically one
41%
trick.
win after that. Then we've got Spear Shot.
One trick.
One trick Pantheon, 250 games. There's nothing else. Literally just looks like it must dodge or I don't know.
Yeah.
But Pantheon probably doesn't get banned, right? He's a Pantheon. Then we have
Elite 500.
Elite 500, straight up Vlad.
Vlad one trick.
Then we've got
Midbeast.
Midbeast.
What
Would
is
you call
Midbeast
that
doing?
a one
Let me
trick?
see. So he...
Talia.
Just Talia... Yeah, so he's... Oh, okay.
Again, we can have to say these two other champs are in his pool, Lissandra and Zoe,
Yeah,
right? So,
so
he would have
to me,
extreme competence.
But
champions.
his is weird, though, because I think... Okay, well, Midbeast... I don't know what he's doing, why he's doing what he's doing, because I feel like Midbeast, having versed him a lot, right? I think he does have very high competence on... He's always loved Talia. Like, he's been... Like, that's his baby, right? He's always played a lot of Talia. But I feel like the way he's such a confidence player. Like, I feel like if he's doing well on a champ, he'll just play a lot of that champ.
Got it. Yeah.
And that's how I always felt with Midbeast.
He goes through his phases.
He goes through phases. I feel like he's a bit of a phase because he's been playing the game for so long. He's like an OG gamer. He can kind of like, I think...
He's built champ master on a lot of
Yeah,
champions.
he's built a lot of champ master in these champs. So I think, like, if I were to look at this objectively, though, you wouldn't say... Like, I would say that he's got, like, only one champ with, like, high competence. And, like, the other Liz, Zoe, Syndra look pretty, mediocre, I would say. But I can't tell if this is just the strategy he's doing with... Because I think... it wouldn't surprise me if he shifted up his strategy where he just did a shit ton of Zoe or something,
Looks like maybe he's going on a Zoe grind.
Yeah, it
now.
looks like he's going on a Zoe grind.
Yeah.
But I will say, from versing him in solo queue, there is a huge difference between his Talia and then all his other champs, like his TF and his Zoe and his Cassio and stuff. Like, it's like not even on the same level, not even close. So,
Well, it's interesting because going back to Agurin's known for his Kha'Zix. He's been ranked 180 with Kha'Zix all the time, but he's barely played that.
but I will say, this is my observation about Midbeast, and again, I haven't spoke to him about his pool or anything. I think he was very strategic this time around. I think because he's been to Korea quite a few times, right? He knows.
Yep.
Talia is very good at covering what I think is his weakness, Midbeast's weakness. Talia is the anti-dive, anti-assassin champion. It is so good into like all these champs like Yasuo and Aurelia and like all these champs that have dashes. And I feel like Midbeast is actually like... He's quite a, I wouldn't say he's the best mechanical player, but he's got great intuition. He reminds me very similar when I watch like Tyler 1. Like, he's not like amazing. He's not known for, he doesn't get his LP from mechanics. He gets his LP from being quite adaptable to a game. I think he's quite versatile. I think he's quite well-rounded. And I think he's good at like reading a map. I think he's actually quite smart.
I agree. I think he's a very disciplined player as well.
Yeah.
He knows how to play discipline in
Yeah,
times.
he does. He actually does.
It's very hard to gank sometimes.
Yeah, I think he knows his shit. So I think that like Talia suits his like it works well in Korea. Because if he's versing a lot of mechanically gifted players, it's like anti-mechanics in a way.
I see. You got it.
You see what I mean? Like, I think he's thought about this. I think he's actually a very smart individual who doesn't pretend he's not smart, but I think he's actually thought this through. Like, I think he's pretending that, I'm just going to pick this, but I think he's thought it through. Personally. I mean, Drew, let me know if I'm wrong.
That's Curtis's analysis from his lots of observations this podcast, guys. And then we've got Hyde on Forge. This guy who's literally just straight up an Orn one trick, 300 games.
But you got to remember, Nathan, right?
Master Yi one
Nathan,
trick.
we're looking at a very biased selection of people, right? These are one tricks. These streamers are one tricks.
That's how they got famous.
That's how they get famous.
That's why they're allowed to be professional.
That's right.
Professional.
So it's not like these
players.
people. It's not like these are the people who thought to themselves, I'm going to like try and be the highest ranked solo queue player, period. It's like, obviously they're going to have to play their champion. Like, you know, like Azap and Valkoz and Spearshot and Elite 500 and whatever. You see what I mean? I think Agurin here is the true representation of what someone who doesn't care about what they play, that just wants to get high elo, would look like. And to be honest, he's got the track record, right? He's been consistent rank 1 EU for the longest time. And he's borderline rank 1 in Korea. And I think he's a great representation of how I would go about it. You know, I would probably do something very, very similar. 4 champs, 2 high master, third, 2 hyper high mastery, third, pretty high, and then 4th, just niche counter pick.
So I guess it's sort of been...
But that's hard to do, by the way.
Yes.
That is very, very hard to do.
So yeah, it looks like, I'd say if I just looking at these top 15 players, it looks like the percentage would probably be, it looks like 60% would be, it's more weighted towards one tricks. But again, that's because of the sample size.
The people who went there.
And then you've got the people that more so like the pro players, like you saw Griffin and stuff like that. They're more, high elo, like, trying to be pro players and stuff like that.
What was Griffin's pool again?
He was just quite diverse, lots of champions. Yeah, number 3.
Yeah, he had quite a lot as well.
Yeah. So it's interesting sort of to see the way that these people are really, when people are serious, how they play.
Because when the chips are on the table, you actually get to see what they're going to do. That's right.
And I think this trip is just a really good, like, again, just observing, like, what are people doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Here?
It's really interesting for me, especially, and you, because Midbeast from OS, and we know where he stands in OS. So it'd be very interesting to see how he goes in his journey. But what we have noticed is look how low the cutoff is for Challenger.
Yeah.
Like you can
just because of the season.
The season start. Like look at this. TF Blade is Challenger at 500 LP. At season peak, it's like 800 to 1K.
Yeah, I think it's something around that.
So it'll be interesting. Even though the Challenger now, you got to keep in mind that as the season, and I'm not discrediting not discrediting them at all. They're all incredibly good players, but like just got to keep in mind like the timing of their journey, definitely was quite strategic in my mind anyway. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up, like as the season progresses. I don't know how long they're going to stay there for,
Yeah. Yeah, thinking about what mine would look like. I mean, right now, if I was to do the climate, it would probably be just pure Rek'Sai one trick. Actually, no, Rek'Sai, like mine will probably look more like TF Blades.
Like
it'll be
overwhelming
Rek'Sai,
one,
150,
Rek'Sai.
and then like Jarvan probably 40 games, and then like... I mean, based on last season, maybe Volibear, but I'm trying to add more of an AP pick. Yeah,
so it'd look like this.
Yeah, it would look like more of this. Like I'd have a couple of champions with like 40 games and like overwhelming Rek'Sai.
So it'd be a champion of 3 or 4, you think?
3, yeah. I would need the AP pick in there.
Interesting.
But I don't know. I'm going to spend the next couple of months sort of just figuring that out. Currently.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to revisit and talk a little about Agurin because he's picked up a lot of attention recently. So he does have English content. He streams mostly in his native language. English is his second language. And he has a YouTube channel called Be Agurin. And he's a really informative stream. He doesn't get sort of the numbers like all the other big ones who have more, I'd say charisma and stuff like the Dantes and the Midbeast and stuff like that. But but people watch him because this guy is really good at the game. And this guy has broken so many narratives around the game. So there's a bit of a controversy. People were saying that Agurin is a reactive jungler, right? So Curtis, do you think you would be able to get to the top of a ladder being a reactive player?
Impossible.
So, yeah, I think that's impossible as well, right? That's just not possible.
You can't be like, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
What does that
definition?
mean? Yeah, what does reactive mean?
I mean, maybe this is an episode.
So you're waiting for the enemy to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? That's why people perceive reactive.
That's right, yes.
It's like, okay, you're sitting back. You're not really doing anything. You're just farming.
Yes, I think what it is it's you're farming. And you're not like doing flashy skirmishes
You're
or
not trying to gank.
displays.
You're not trying to...
You're not down like, like you're, let's say as a jungler, like let's say you maybe people's definition of a proactive jungler. You're that lease in with 40 farm at 10 minutes, but you've killed all these people. Yeah. I think that's people's perception of the jungler.
What a proactive jungler is.
What a proactive jungler is, right? And watching Agurin's gameplay, I've been observing it. This guy is the definition of consistency and taking high percentage plays. I can't emphasize enough that, yes, his skirmishing is pretty much, I mean, I'm not going to say flawless, but it's at this level, right? Like it's at, the top, against Korean pros, stuff like easily can go toe to toe with the best players in the world. So that's an element. But again, like he full clears on champs like Jarvan. And
I watched a video where he full cleared on Jarvan.
Almost like most games. And really interestingly enough as well, he doesn't even take a health potion. He just, every jungler goes health potion and stuff. But he has really optimized, really good clears. And then, so the way that he thinks about the game is the enemy jungler's going to make their chess move. I'm going to make a better chess move after. He thinks about the game way forward in the future more so. It's like, because you know how people in League, they think that when someone makes a mistake, you need to instantly punish them. Agurin punishes them a minute later for losing tempo.
What's an example of that?
He's got a very good understanding of, all right, so let's say, for example, the most common thing, a level 3 gank, right? Let's say you do the enemy jungler does Red Krug drops his level 3 ganks. Agurin will do the full clear. Sometimes contest those camps, but he's thinking, I'm going to actually contest or take away the next spawn of the Krugs. He's thinking of that at 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the game when that level 3 ganks happened, or it's like 2 minutes, 50 seconds. And he's thinking about what he's going to do at 4 minutes and 20 seconds when it spawns. He's punishing the tempo. He has a very good understanding of tempo and thinking really forward in the future. That I've noticed, he'll get dragons, like he's really good at getting dragons, especially Jarvan. He's plays the most. He'll hold his smarts. He has 2 smarts. Instantly will start a dragon when he knows that the enemy jungler's had bad tempo loss. So he definitely really prioritizes neutral objectives as well. I've noticed. But this guy he's basically always strong. Which is really interesting. And that's something that I've realized in my gameplay. I've realized I've gone to the extreme of I win games by capitalize on the enemy jungler counting gank and I just get a triple kill and I win the game. But that can ruin me games all the time. Like there's not that consistency element there. And I'll do that level 3 gank and like the enemy jungler's smart. They know that I'm going to do that because I'm Rek'Sai and Rek'Sai will level 3 ganks and I just lose the game instantly because I just gave a triple kill to Graves. That's literally happened in one of my games the other week. So watching Agurin, and it's just really awesome to see. You know how people say about chaos and teammates dying and stuff? Dude, I just love his stoic nature. Like you're just watching his streams, he's like, yep, that guy's dying. He'll like say it, he mentions, he gets frustrated, like, oh, he's dying, I don't know why he's dying there. He's like, but he's always got an option, a play after. It's just really beautiful,
because
high percentage league lanes. Because he's strong and because he's only taking high percentage, high consistent plays.
But the one observation I've made anyway is that he's so good at pinging ganks.
Yeah, tracking as well.
So good at tracking.
Again, so that's the powerful thing that he does when he's jungle. He's prepared for someone to die and already has a response. Before the gank even happens. So he'll ping it. He's happy for them. If they die, they die, right?
Yeah, he pings it, but if they die, he'll just do the thing about what's next.
He's not thinking, oh my God, they died, they suck. He's already thinking about the next move, right?
Because I watched one of his videos that he uploaded, like the early game, and he did a full clear on Jarvan. And he's like, okay, Viego's probably going to come mid. And then he kept assessing the whole time whether or not Viego... He like pinged that Viego could be coming. But
he's calculating the percentage of things in his head.
Yeah, and then he's like... But then it didn't happen. And then Viego showed on the other side. And he's like, okay, that's what Viego's doing. He's like... You can tell he's always... Yeah, he's always thinking about what they're going to do. Very, very, in advance.
And it's, again, really cool to see because this is how I view the jungle. And that's where I coach. I just talk about high percentage because, people always say, Nathan, there's so much chaos and stuff. Like this guy is the definition of controlled chaos. I think it's really interesting to be seeing this.
What I will say though, look, and this is from a mid laner's perspective. I don't understand the jungle role right? That much well at all, right?
Yeah.
What I will say is that it almost feels like he has created. He feels like to me an individual that has just played so much solo queue and has created, has optimized and optimized and optimized and optimized to the point it's like every decision is just he's created a style just out of necessity. It's like this is just what works in solo queue. And the reason I say this specifically in reference to solo queue is that what happens when you verse another calculated jungler? Like what happens? Like, and then we had this conversation off camera, and then it comes down to just skirmishing.
That's what competitive is. Then they're basically what happens if I feel like if you put two Agurins into with each other, then because then no one's making that first chess move.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
No one's making that first dumb decision. Because he will win every game versus a jungler that makes that one dumb decision. He'll win that game, right? But if he's versing him, right, another Agurin v2, then
it just gets the team fights in the mid to late game,
right? And then it's just whoever can play their champ better and their team, play around their team better.
I definitely think that's a bit of an oversimplification. Like he definitely, does invade sometimes. Like I saw him invade a Zac and stuff like that. Like again, when it makes sense when it's high percentage.
Yeah, I didn't. When you say that high percentage, to me that doesn't mean he doesn't invade.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that he doesn't gank. Yeah. It doesn't mean that he doesn't.
Those are high percentage
he
plays.
Just makes decisions that make sense that are high percentage. Yeah. Yes, that's right.
League is league. And it's just really been interesting to see everyone call this guy like a reactive jungler when I feel like that people get such a weird view of the game if that's the case. Again, this guy's breaking everyone's narrative. Dude, he's playing Java and Elise. Dude, if it wouldn't be possible to win in the top of the hardest, let's say the hardest server in the world, if you're playing that stuff, it'd be impossible, but he's making it work. And this is like the first player that's like done this. This is really cool stuff to see. So I think it's really cool just to get people excited about like, we think that we know solo queue, and then some guy just comes and just breaks all the narratives down. You know what I mean? Like,
because people would think that if you go to Korea, there's all this action, there's ganking, fast pace. You got to like gank, and if you're not ganking, then like you're bad. But no, he's just kind of doing it his way, right?
Yep, absolutely doing it his way, and just playing really good League of Legends. It's just good League of Legends.
League of Legends is League of Legends.
It's not proactive. It's not reactive. It's just fucking League, dude.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, like people like remember Shern always hated the word play style.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there is play styles.
It is kind of, isn't it? But I wouldn't really call it a play style.
No, when I watch Agurin, it's not play style. It's just good League of Legends.
Yeah,
that's it. I can't describe it in any other way.
Because you could break down. It's like this jungler is making this decision. This is objectively a low percentage decision based off the information he has at that moment.
Correct.
And this decision is a better quality decision because he has XYZ information. He can't make that assumption about that person or what they might do based off where they started. Therefore, this is a better quality decision. It's like, is that one more proactive or less proactive, whatever? I don't know. You can try and put a label on it, but it doesn't really do it justice. It just confuses it.
I think that the whole labeling like that is just it's just a lazy way. It's just not getting into the details. Yeah. It's not getting into the details, like in specific. Like, go there, watch Agurin stream, guys, and just look at the way he's breaking his decisions. It's all like, it just ticks all every box. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. That beautiful, perfect, no coin flipping, bam, bam, consistent. And that's the thing. What gets you to these ranks, guys? Like consistency. We talk about consistency all the time. It's so important. So it's definitely inspired me a lot in my gameplay. And I realized I went to the extreme of inconsistency of playing too much for my lanes, not being strong enough. And then now I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to let this person die here, and I'm going to be able to trade some other things.
But I will say, I think that skirmishing well is such a big part of the game.
It is, yes.
And he skirmishes. I saw this, like, again, that video that I saw. He was in a really uncomfortable position, and then he just turned on one person and like fought his way out of a situation that, like, it could have easily, if he didn't make that one decision, would turn to shit and the game's over.
Yeah.
Like his intuitive decision making in skirmishing in fights is just really well. And that's, again, what I observed in China, in Diamond in China. The skirmishing in Diamond in China was better than, like, it was probably equivalent of like mid to high, like probably like Grandmaster and Os, like skirmishing wise, right? Like high master, low Grandmaster and Os, right? And so from a skirmishing perspective, that's such a big part of the game because you're always fighting in a way, right? And so
but you've got to fight to win.
Yeah, fights to determine the game.
You can't just not fight.
Yeah, that's right. So like if you can fight well, like you're gonna have good results in solo queue as well, right? So this just ties into the broader discussion that there are so many ways to climb. Not in the sense of decisions, I'm talking in terms of the skills that you emphasize. There are probably many junglers out there that he's versus that gives Agurin a hard time, even though they're making poor decisions, but just fighting incredibly well. You know what I mean? Like
they've like indexed in that skill set.
They've indexed in that skill set. That's right. And because League has so many skills, you can over-index in particular skills.
Yeah. I was looking, for example, the other day, like I saw this Nunu one trick that he was playing against, and this Nunu one trick goes like Radiant Virtue Rush items, so he does like no damage, but he must just be ganking every. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? But I mean, Agurin's way higher than him, you know. But again, it's just like he did lose a game to that guy, you know.
Yeah.
So it's still. But again, it's just I think it's just demonstrating that Agurin's such a well-rounded over the long term. His place, again, I'm not going to use that word. Just playing good, beautiful League of Legends does get you very high rank. You know, I think this is again, the best. So it's really awesome to see a Western player sort of do this as well. All right, Curtis. So next topic here, sort of really good sort of tie on. Just because you know, Curtis, in this podcast, we're trying to educate the populace, the League of Legends player base. There's lots of misconceptions around the game, right? Like what climbing is, how do you climb? We did that case study, the Gold 4 case study, which opened up a lot of people's eyes. It's like, okay, what does actually a Gold Hearthstone player look like? How do they talk? How do they view the game? It's such an important aspect of things, right? How people view things. We actually had a comment, Curtis, on one of our recent videos. Oh, sorry, actually on episode 133, so way back.
Okay,
it was like an episode of why we decided to coach below Gold. And he said, this comment here, this guy called Rage Gay says, at 1 hour, Curtis talks about the 1v9 mentality and how he disagrees with it. I personally think you can't just do your job and expect to climb. If you only do your job to standard, then doesn't that mean you're at the rank you deserve to be? I thought the whole purpose of a ranked ladder was that the players that overperform go up and the ones that don't stagnate. Unless doing your job isn't in reference to your rank, but the ideal. Just curious on people's thoughts on that.
Wow. So such an interesting way of perceiving that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that is struggling to think about what does it mean? How about we start with what does it mean when we say you got to do your, what does doing your job?
Yeah. Well, doing your job is performing well, right? That's the thing that he's not understanding, right?
Doing your job is the overperforming.
That is the overperforming.
It's hard to do your job. Doing your job, yeah.
It's hard to do your job.
If you're on your gold, let's use a gold game, for example. People are not only not doing their jobs properly, they're actively ruining, like by them not doing their job, they're ruining the game. Like they're losing the game for their team, basically. I'm in my games as a challenger player. I know games that I don't do my job. I fuck up. I've lost that game for my team. Okay,
so doing your job, let's give some examples. Let's give examples from a jungle and a mid perspective, okay?
Yep.
So from a mid perspective, I am playing Malzahar. Let's say there's a gold player. I'm going to use gold examples. Right? Gold for Malzahar player.
You did that video, Curtis, for example, the silver one. The guy that struggled gave up in silver, right? Just use him as an
example. Looking for a fight as Annie with no ultimate, or rocking up to a fight with no stun ready available, staying on the map with 2,000 gold and having Ludens in base. Like these things prevent you. You're not able to do your job because you're not putting yourself in that position. So if I were to tick those boxes, I'm saying no to fights where I don't have my ult ready. I'm going back to base when I have a goal for my key spikes. I am rocking up to fights with my stun ready, so then when they show, I can kill them. Like these things are doing your job, right?
Yep.
Those are easy, very simple examples.
Yep. I mean, that's going to be lots of overlap. Obviously, staying on the map with lots of gold when you have your reset for your mythic. Obviously, junglers are the best at ruining games because they do bad ganks and they can get counter ganked or triple or whatever like that. So, I mean, most of the time, doing your job is not taking bad ganks.
Yeah.
But let's frame it to say taking high quality ganks, like Agurin type ganks. You know, he knows when something's a good gank and a bad gank. Champ mastery specific things, again, fighting without your ults.
Or like flashing onto the back line rather than just peeling your AD carry.
Yep.
Things like that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I would say pretty much if I actually just break down team fights, like fights in every game up until people are basically, everyone's misplaying every fight basically. Almost every single fight, there's one person misplaying the fight. That theoretically is not doing your job. You might be saying, well, you know, Nathan Curtis, like, that's too unrealistic for my rank. It's like, well, again, that's how you differentiate yourself. That doing your job is how you climb.
No one is doing their job.
No one is, you need
So
to first,
if you-
that's the first premise. No one is doing their job.
No one is doing their job properly. So if you're doing your job to
Even a 60%.
60, 70%, you're probably way better than your counterpart anyway.
Like, if I was to say that, someone doing their job at a 60, 70% level, that's probably a diamond player.
Probably. Yeah.
You know? I want to get the specific quote he says. So, I thought the whole purpose of the rank ladder was that the players that overperform go up and the ones that don't stagnate. His definition of overperforming is sort of, again, going back to the Agurin reactive, proactive thing. People think that, like, what does that mean? What does overperform? Does that mean
running around the map, killing
everyone?
everyone?
That's what people think. Like,
That's what people think. Yeah.
Again, watch Agurin's gameplay. Dude, it's so boring. It's so simple. It's so... But it's beautiful to watch still at the same time. Remember we say boring is sexy? Good League should be really
It's
boring.
like Chovy. Chovy is a robot. You watch them play, and again, you watch his lane phase. He's tethering perfectly, CSing perfectly, trading perfectly, never dying to a gank, warding perfectly. Everything is just perfect. It's all basic. It's all just really fucking hard to do consistently every single
The
game.
execution of the game is so hard.
So hard.
And that's it's really interesting. It's like they're like gold case study. I think that the general player base, they think that because there's only 4 buttons in the game, like that comment he's basically saying everyone knows what to do. Everyone knows how to play their champion.
No, okay, this is actually I'm so glad you brought this up. So I came back from my trip, and one of my reflections, I did a lot of reflecting on my trip, and one of the reflections while I was gone was so there's mentors in my below gold program, right? People who are from the above gold program that have been in there, now it's platinum, but in the main program, MLA, been there for a while, and they've come over to help. And what I've noticed is that sometimes there can be me and some of the mentors aren't fully aligned in the way we're giving advice. So I started to think, okay, me and the mentors need to get aligned, and we need to make sure we're really talking about the same things in the same order, or whatever. My point being, I was really trying to think about, I was really observing the interactions between the mentors and the clients in the Midland school. And what I noticed with these clients in the Below Gold program is that it is so many similarities in the sense that they say things like, they say things, oh, I'm really frustrated I lost this game. Look at my top laner this game. I lost this 30-minute team fight. Why? And, some of the mentors get really kind of frustrated because they don't know why they're asking so many low quality questions, or not really understanding like the basics they need to get better at. And then it got me thinking, why are these clients, why are they acting that way? Why are these people asking these what we deem to think are low quality questions? It's because if you really dig deeper and deeper and deeper, it's because when an average person plays League, it ties back to what we said on the solo queue contract. They don't really understand what makes League difficult. That is the core, the bottom of the fucking barrel. That is what helps you have a good relationship with the game and be a good quality player, is understanding what makes League hard.
Absolutely.
And what makes League hard is not because the concepts individually are complicated. It's because the muscle memory required to execute the game well is insane. Because the game is there's not only so many variables, the amount of, not the width, not the depth, is just so many. It's that the game is literally changing every 2 to 3 weeks. So not only is that number of things growing, the things that you already learned have to be changed or altered, or the feeling of that now, or lost chapters now, not 1300 anymore, 1100, or that item now does that, not that. That doesn't give you that stat anymore. That changes that feeling in that one skirmish that you had with that champion. It's the feeling and the muscle memory required to execute well. That is the hard bit. Right? And so what happens is that people think, oh, I've played my 40 games with this champ, and I watched this video and I now understand the trading patterns. I'm like, congratulations, you just started.
That's just the beginning.
You're
You're aware of them.
You're now aware, and you can maybe execute it one in every 5 games. Congratulations. Now you got to be able to do that every time without even thinking about it. That is what leads. That's where the confusion starts.
Yeah, because they think that part of the game is like maybe 20%, and then they're looking when they do some people that join our coaching programs, they're looking for the strategies or the champion or the new
gimmicks.
approach, the gimmicks. They think that's 80% of the game, but that's like it's the opposite. It's like 90% is all the basics done well, and 10% is like maybe champions, the sexy stuff. Maybe a champ is really good. This
like
patch,
that's what I've realized in my program. I've got all this stuff, right? I've got this content. I was having this conversation with one of the mentors this morning. I said, all this other stuff actually doesn't matter. What matters is these champ guides that we've done.
If you even get close to just executing everything I talk on the champ guides.
We've done this guide. If you just watch this guide that we've made in the platform, if you can execute, like you said, like 40% of it,
you're gonna be gold.
You're gold.
Yeah.
Like if you know how to like do what they said, play in accordance with this champ's identity, build these items, do these trading patterns, understand your identity in these fights, boom, you're gold. But that's hard.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do because of the execution.
Yes, that's right. You've got to put in the games to execute that. Yeah.
That's right. And then I look at their RPG and they've got 12 ranked games played. I'm like, well, fuck me. Of course you're not going anywhere.
That's right.
It's not it's not complicated, but it is complicated.
That's always
that's the case. So yeah, my point being is like, I think that we're having conversations sometimes with the league community where we're playing a different game. We're playing chess, they're playing checkers. So we can't actually it's very difficult for us to have a real conversation because we don't have the same meanings for things. You're saying reactive game. We don't know what reactive gameplay means or proactive gameplay. It's like a good decision and a bad decision. So we can't even have a proper conversation until we're actually aligned on what game we're playing and what the terms actually mean.
That's a really good point. Yeah, like on Reddit and stuff like that. Yeah, the way a high elo player talks and a lot. Yeah, they're sort of using the same language, but they
mean different things.
They mean different things. Yeah,
it's like when you say champ mastery and get good at your clears, that you know what that means, but then champ mastery to someone else could mean something completely fucking different. It's just or to intensity. What does playing with intensity actually mean? And that is why I think we've had so much. There are people that get the 3-block thing get it, and the people that get playing with intensity eventually get it. But at the start, a lot of people don't. They say, "Oh, why can't I just play 8 games?" But then when they get it and
they know what it feels like to play with
I'm exhausted after 2. I can't play more than 2.
Yeah.
But there's that moment where you have to bridge the gap, But I think half the time, actually, no, I'd say majority of the time when we're having conversations with people outside of our community or with the broad YouTube community or Reddit or whatever, it's we're in that middle where it's like they're over there, we're over here. We're trying to bridge that gap and help you see what we see. Now, we're not saying what we see is right, but we need to at least agree where we're both coming from first before we can actually have a proper discussion, because we're open to the idea that we might be wrong, and we probably are wrong on some things. We just got to start somewhere though, But yeah, it's very difficult to have that conversation.
And comments like this, we're just slowly just correcting things. Again, this is going to take us years. Again, people have such a misinformed idea of ranked stuff, like even like duo queue and flex.
Yeah.
Like I've even had people join my program. It's like I'm a flex player. I'm like, he only plays flex, and I'm like, okay. I just wanted to explain like, you do not improve as a player. If anything, you get worse playing with teammates and with communication, and the matchmaking's all distorted. You don't actually know what level you're at. Like, I gotta start having that conversation, And it's like, it just, all this sort of things, the misconceptions people have about the game we're just so like, guys, like, everyone thinks that League's been around for 10 years. Like, the way that I think about it, League is like still a little baby. It's like, if I was to think about it human years, League has been around, like, we're still toddlers. Like, the general League community, in terms of how people view the game.
And I will say though that we have a responsibility to get better as educators.
That's right, absolutely.
To change, to educate, because I made a video that I actually really regret making, which is one where I played in bronze to prove a point. It is such a misunderstood video.
That's a great example.
And that's my fault.
Yeah.
It's not their fault for I'm the one who didn't make it clear enough. I remember, because I'm actually going to make a video correcting it. I actually kind of want to, because it's actually kind of cringe looking back on the
way you approach the video.
The way I approached the video, it was such a lazy video. I remember making it thinking, I'm doing such a great service to the community, because the intention was good and there were some gems in there, but it's like they shouldn't have to mine for the gems. The gems should just appear on a silver platter,
articulated very nicely,
clearly packaged up, ribbon on top. Here you go, just open it. It's on my palm of my hand. You just got to watch this video. But instead, there's too much confusion. There's too many other things at play that disrupt the message, and then people get distracted by the things there, and that tear them away, and they won't find the gems, and that just makes them even worse, and makes them view the game in an even worse, in a more negative way. So I've actually done damage, I think, to the community by making that video.
Interesting.
And that's and I could look at it through a negative, like fuck these people.
They don't get me.
Yeah, they don't get it.
Understand.
But that's my job as an educator in the industry. Yeah. So I have to redo that video, and I actually can't do it via playing. It's just impossible to play in lower elo bracket without it becoming just silly. So I need to explain what my intention was with the video, and why what the message was, and why it got interrupted, and where this all really came from. Really think about it, is that I didn't know really. I didn't understand the below gold person. Now that I've finally met them and spoke to them and worked with them, I kind of understand. And I will say one last thing about this. While I was on the plane, our observation has been that coaching below gold has been way harder than coaching above master.
Absolutely.
Right? Coaching the lower elo brackets is incredibly difficult. The way I view it is that, imagine a net, okay? So imagine you've got this giant fishing net and encompassing all of the skills required to go from level 30 to challenger. You've got this massive net. There's all the possibilities of things that a person may not know or doesn't know. They know nothing, right? So that if you're an iron, you've got so much to learn. There's so much that you don't know, and there's so much that could be going wrong in your games. When you're in diamond,
you've got a lot of that, and that net's smaller.
Yeah, the net's way smaller. There's so much we can all agree upon that we all know. Everyone in diamond knows what all the champs do. We know what all the items do. We can all agree upon what a good reset is.
They probably have heard these concepts, but they just need a little bit of a kick to understand or explain or show an example there.
Or they even do understand it. Either or. If in diamond, there's so much that is already consolidated and understood. So the amount of things that could be going wrong in your play is way lower. It's way less. Now, it doesn't mean those things are difficult, easy to improve on. They'll be very the muscle memory and execution of those things can be difficult, but the amount of things that could be going wrong is way less. As someone in diamond, they're always going to know how to CS to a somewhat decent level. They're always going to know, all these these things that we deem as basic. But in iron, it could be anything. Everything is going wrong. So someone in iron could simultaneously, or in bronze one of them could be good at CSing but bad at trading. One could not even know what a reset is, but someone might know a reset but has bad. There's an infinite amount of combinations of potential clients that you could have.
Yeah, that's right.
In below gold.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yep.
So, and there's so many ways so many connections to be made there that you can climb in so many different ways. You can get to gold in a trillion different ways. So what I've noticed is that so many clients are unique. I thought it would be the other way around. I thought in below gold, the clients would be easier to work with because their problems would be basic, and that the problems would be like more similar to each other. It's completely opposite. In the Midland Academy, what I've noticed, and Platinum Plus, they're actually a lot easier to work with because the problems are less. There's less possibility. Just one of my kind of observations, which is very interesting. Again, tying into the complexity of the game. And so tying back to the video, I did not understand that there's a lot of complexity there. And I tried to package up, simplify something that is incredibly fucking complicated. So I can understand why they would feel offended, and even though I tried to get across some good points, there's too much mud that they needed to sift through there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's interesting. You said that that video was not that well thought out. I remember you made that video in like a day.
Yeah.
Because
I was so excited. I'm like, this is easy. All I got to do is play these two games. And I got my point. I already knew what I wanted to get across. I wanted to show the idea, essentially, that you don't need to do anything special to win. That if I just sit there and do nothing, I just want to show you, if I sit there and literally just CS, not press flash, and do absolutely nothing, like, the enemy are going to make so many mistakes that they would literally fall over themselves, which they did, basically. Even though I lost one, people say, oh, but you lost.
Yeah.
But it's like,
when you're like 19-2 or something.
Yeah, like I'd like really, really good fun. 19, like sitting there and we nearly won it. And that was the game with like three losing jungle, 2 losing sides. I just wanted to show that you could make a game difficult with doing literally nothing. That just shows how much you're sabotaging the game. But again, it's such a complicated.
Even now, explaining it, you can't really explain it.
No, exactly.
Well.
It's just not a good video. So, there's lessons you learn, and I think that it's our job, TLDR. It's our job to get better as educators.
God, I love League of Legends.
I mean, dude, we've got so much to do. We've got so much work to do.
That's what I said. The way we are in the community right now, we're toddlers. We're in preschool right now.
Yep.
We need to get better, and we need to be way better at communicating the message.
Yes.
To grow up the League of Legends community.
Yep.
All right, mailbag time, Curtis. Yep. Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's mailbag. Jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question here comes from Albit. The title of this email is "The Process is Bullshit." I have lost all motivation to play solo queue on the split reset. I'm currently 6-12 on the current reset after holding a 60% win rate for 300 games last split. I do everything that all of you disconnected high elo players claim to be the key to climbing. I play in 2 to 3 game blocks. I review my games with particular emphasis on what caused my deaths and how to avoid them. I one-trick Aurelion Sol and perform consistently. Yet with the influx of trash players returning to League for a new reset, it makes no difference. High elo players have this disconnected delusion mentality that all lanes don't lose. You generally only have one weak side in a game, and I'm here to tell you that it is absolute horse shit. I've had 10 games out of the 18 I played where either every lane gets absolutely shit-stomped or I'm the only one that doesn't come out of early game with an obscene amount of deaths. You say that every game is winnable, but how am I supposed to win when the team is FF in before I can power spike because bot fed 20 kills in 15 minutes and top is down 3 levels and 60 CS, and my jungler's AFK farm with zero intentions of getting neutral objectives or helping his team fight? This is beyond frustrating. It feels like there is no solution. I think this email's a really good time from our last topic, Curtis, talking about, for someone like this who's a listener of our podcast, tries through all this and is still just like, okay, this is just this. You guys are talking out of your ass. And again, this is our failure as educators.
Yeah. I actually want to, I don't even want to talk about this from a process perspective. Like, I think, obviously, that we could easily just say, you've got such a small sample size, you can't really say much about it. What I will say, I'm going to speak from an Aurelion Sol perspective. This is what I love doing nowadays. Just get into the champ specifics, right?
Specifics, yeah.
So A-Sol. So I've done quite a bit of A-Sol games myself. And A-Sol. So A-Sol is a champion where, as you know, who you wrote this email in, what's his name again?
Albit.
You're quite weak in the early game. And it is your responsibility to figure out a way to make the game easier for not only yourself, but for your team. So that's why you'll see a lot of Aurelion Sols, they'll even do straight Rylai's Rush. They might go, they might sometimes do Lost Chapter into Rylai's or even just straight Rylai's Rush, just because they want that earlier spike, gives you a bit more stats, HP, etc., skirmishing ability. I will say though, itemization and runes aside, it depends if you're going Comet and Scorch or not, or some A-Sols go like Gathering Storm and First Strike and shit like that. So I don't know what his setup is. So that stuff is important, but something to keep in mind. You can adapt your setup. And D-Ring also being quite, like, you can actually do damage in the early game if you go Scorch and D-Ring and Comet. That stuff aside, A-Sol, all the small things matter. like any other champ, but I'll say they matter more in ASOL because it's so unforgiving. You make one mistake on ASOL, it's just so hard to win the game. What I found with ASOL is that things like, saying no to fights, or sometimes even adapting when you have your empowered R and saying yes to a fight that you think you might not be able to win, but you can win, getting creative with your W usage, like literally pinging way in advance that you don't want something to happen, giving that first 1 or 2 dragons, being super disciplined on your empowered R usage when you have it, literally hyper reviewing it. Like, did I get max value from my empowered R usage? It's having that mindset. It's like, if I had to do it, if I had to win this game, if I had to maximize my impact and make the game easier for my team, how would I do it? And these are the sorts of questions you need to be asking. Only one fight will make the difference. If you play that one fight better with your empowered R at that 20 minute mark or 18 minute mark, or you give that one dragon, you wait for that one spike, you do that W in a better direction, you be that a little bit more patient on your W or whatever it might be. That makes all
the games that you're playing
a
different game.
You're playing a different game.
People really struggle to understand. People think that, okay, if I played this fight a little bit better here, and here, the game's still unwinnable. I think that's actually what people think.
And
as
again,
well.
this ties into the metaphor that I used in, I think, the last episode, which was like, imagine it like an electrical circuit. Imagine like a square with the wires connecting to all the lights, the nodes, whatever. All it takes is one of the wires to be disconnected for the whole circuit to not work. With ASOL specifically, and I found this because I was struggling with ASOL when I first played ASOL it was like in Diamond. I was struggling in Diamond as a challenger player in my server. I was struggling because it was only a few things missing. I had to tighten up my R usage. I had to tighten up my W usage creatively, aggressively in lane when they use their self peel. So if an R used a charm, before I wasn't using my W aggressive to punish it. Then after I changed it, I was. Or I was wasting my W in fights, or doing like little things that all added up that lost me games.
That went from struggling in Diamond to just dominating.
Completely dominating.
It's like 20-0.
Literally, it looks like a Smurf. Basically overnight. So that's why I said to ASOL players, watching other high-level Aurelion Sol players with an emphasis on one ability is what we spoke about in the other episode as well. So pick one ability. How are they using their W? Look at their W throughout their whole VOD. Watch multiple VODs. How are they using their W? How are they using their Q in lane? How are they using their Rs? Just get granular with a curious mindset. Ability usage. That and that alone will help you massively. So I'm not even going to talk about process because I feel like, again, there's no point. I feel like, again, this is a question about Aurelion Sol. For me, anyway.
For context, he's bronze 2.
Right, okay.
When you were answering that question...
Oh, yeah, I was envisioning like a platinum player.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Now,
yeah, wow.
The way you would actually think about it differently. I should have mentioned that.
Yeah.
Before, because then that might change. Would that change how you answer that question in terms of Aurelion Sol perspective?
Look, I would still just massively emphasize champ mastery.
Yeah, that's again where it starts with.
Just champ mastery.
Yeah,
champ mastery is the bedrock. Just you got to get very good at the champ.
So wow. I think that advice goes. That's the practical.
That's the practical shit.
Really, like if you want to like just cut through all the stuff, you gotta be. Again, like if we talk about a bronze player, I would say already here, him coming at the angle of, process is bullshit, 2-3 blocks.
Right.
He talks about he's playing consistently and stuff like that. That would mean if he's thinking that that's the problem. His view on what it actually looks like to get it good at champion is the fact that he's getting to this stage. We can't even be talking about process.
That's right. Process doesn't actually matter that much in bronze.
No, absolutely
Straight
not.
up. You don't even need to review in bronze, really.
Nope.
In my opinion,
no one. Or let's say, not no one, we have had students do the process in that, but let's say 99.9% of players across 10 years, our friends, people we know, reviewing never made sense.
No.
You even describing to them what champ mastery, they wouldn't even think about it. That just would happen intuitively with them us, right? So
your job is to get very good at your champion. And this is what I would say. If I got that in my program, I would, and based off what I said to my mentors today, bring it back to champion mastery. Champion mastery. So like I said, he's on look, it's hard to give advice for bronze that isn't in my, because I have an Aurelian's War guide in my program that will literally outline exactly what you need to do in what order and when to focus on. But ultimately, you got to just study and watch ASOLs and how they're using their abilities. That's the most practical advice. And adopt the mentality of being curious and open-minded. If you're losing,
well, he thinks he's losing because of his teammates. He's performing consistently, he says.
like, that is the real problem, I guess. If we're talking outside a game, the fact that you're thinking you're playing well and losing because of your teammates, like, you need a reality check. Like, you are losing the games because you're making poor quality decisions, whether you like it or not. So that is the reality. So it's a tough pill to swallow. It's like the Matrix. It's like, the blue pill, the red pill. Which one do you want? Do you want me to tell you that it's your teammates, or do you want the truth and that you're making bad decisions? And it's painful to hear that you're making bad decisions.
Especially when you've convinced yourself that you're performing consistently and you're doing the, we talk about fake process all the time, right? He's obviously clearly got a fake process. When he reviews his deaths, I bet you there's something in there about he's actually blaming his team. He's not actually reviewing his deaths properly.
Oh, my team, they made me take that play. Or my team just shouldn't have fought that dragon. I'm like, well, if that guy did that, then I wouldn't have died. Or
there's different levels of reviewing a death as well. There's different ways you can go about that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on here. Next question here comes from Conrad. The title of his email is Anxiety About Missing Minions. Hi, Nathan and Curtis. I've been playing League on and off for quite some time and lately made the decision that I wanted to seriously focus in and try to climb this split, with the goal of hitting the new Emerald rank as a mid laner. I have found lately that I end up making stupid mistakes because I'm stressing too much about missing minions. I keep showing up late to fights because I just need to get that cannon before I move to the dragon, or walking up even though I know the enemy jungler is around because I really don't want to miss those last 3 ranged minions. The interesting thing to me is that whenever I watch better players, they seem to not care about those moments as much. They manage to maintain 10 CS per minute, while I'm only getting about 7 to 8.5, but seem to stress way less about individual minions in certain situations. They'll start their recall when there are still 1 to 2 minions in the lane. They don't stress if a jungler pushes them off a few minions, or if a fight breaks out and they miss a wave to move for it. I haven't been able to figure out that balance of how to weight minions in my decision making in order to ensure good CS while not compromising the rest of my gameplay. I was wondering if you have any tips for how to think about those situations or any insights into what the pros do to maintain such good CS while still giving up obvious minions in those moments. And for context here, he actually wrote in. He's actually Emerald 3 right now with a 60% win rate.
Oh, so he must have climbed.
He must have already hit his goal. Maybe solved the problem.
What I will say is that, you cannot compare the CS you get to someone that's significantly higher than you. I have a video that says 10 CS per minute is so misunderstood. There is so much that goes on inside 10 CS per minute. You shouldn't even be, if you're getting 7, you're fine. 7 CS per minute is fine. It's very rare that you need to get that much CS in the lower elo brackets. And look, if you feel as though it's a problem, you get specific. It's like, okay, why in this situation should I have actually gone to the fight? Why in this situation should I have just recalled? And the way I would view it very practically, if I'm going to be very practical, is like, okay, what did I get versus what did I lose? Okay, because I stayed for this wave and didn't get these, stayed to get these 3 minions and I missed my reset. Now I'm stuck in lane and now I have no resources and now I'm going to miss. I can't find a reset at all. Now I'm going to lose more than I got. Or I stayed to get this cannon, but then my team got aced on dragon. I wasn't at the fight. Well, the cannon obviously wasn't worth your team dying at dragon. So it's about risk versus reward. It's about looking about, okay, this is the positives, these are the negatives, weighing it up, visualizing, and just moving on. Make note, move on. Make note, move on. Make note, move on. That's all it is. If I'm speaking from my experience, no shit, I want that cannon. But if my team is fighting on the Rift Herald, well, I think getting a double kill or getting double killed is more important than that cannon minion. It's really that simple.
It sounds like he's weighing up this number. He's playing the game for the CS, not to play. He's not playing League of Legends, right? And that's that's where the stress is coming from.
It's in the 10 CS minute. Oh my god, I gotta get this. That's because that's what the pros do. They get 10 CS minute. Don't worry about that, right? Worry about the decision making and what is good in that one decision, that one moment. And then as you get better at you familiarize yourself with those situations, just become easy.
Yeah, and it comes with experience, right? Like let's say you want to go for those 3 range minions, but going for those 3 range minions, you're going to lose 40% of your health pool. So the pro player is thinking more so, okay, but it's just about forward thinking.
Yeah.
If I go for these 3 range minions, I lose 40%, and then I'm actually going to lose more CS in the long term.
That's
right?
correct.
So that's where the stress is coming from. It's coming from not thinking, just thinking about the immediate consequences and not the long-term.
It's like Agurin. It's like Agurin.
Same thing.
It's same thing. Agurin is thinking, okay, let's use like a diamond jungler. We'll think, my mid lane is so dumb for dying to that gank. How could they die at level 3? And then Agurin's thinking, but I can get Krugs at 4 minutes 30.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
That's the difference, yes.
Right? And it's not like they're registering that information. They're just making use of that information in a way different way. You're absolutely spot on in mid. That's actually how I feel. It's like, well, I do want that minion, but I know if I go for it and I get chunked or have to use my ultimate or my flash to escape, I'm screwed because if I don't have flash in this matchup, I'll die to a gank later on.
Yes.
That's right.
And again, but you got to find those situations in the review. You need to,
yes.
But the answers are all there for you in the review. You looked at those 3, and instead of, I think the way he views is like, damn it, I missed those. I died because of those 3 range minions. But it's not thinking, okay, what happens if I didn't die here? Like seeing everything that's missed. That's always a really good tool you can way to review rather than thinking about, that death is a mistake. But you got to think about the alternatives.
Yeah. How would this game have played out if I didn't die here?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
Really important question.
Yeah. 100%.
All right, well, I think that's it for Mailbag. A bit of a shorter one today because Curtis needs to go sleep because he got back.
Well, I didn't sleep on the plane.
There you go. Curtis has not slept. So he got back yesterday and he's fried. And he's got a full week of coaching back here. So shorter Mailbag here, but we still did a pretty decent size episode for you guys. Good work, guys.
Good work, team.
Keep on improving and we'll see you back next week.